I'm Elena Nicolay. I'm a core team member of the YMIA, and I want to tell you a little bit about the YMIA. So who are we? We are an international community of early career scientists with an interest in microscopy and image analysis. And our aim is to provide a dynamic community that is shaped based on the demand of our members. So regularly we monitor what our members would like to hear about, what's their most interest. And what is also close to our heart and what we support as YMIA is the community of the open science community, because they provide the opportunity for everyone around the world to contribute and learn from and within their field. And in this regard, we got contacted by Mara Lampert. Mara Lampert is research associate with the NFDI for bioimaging here at UFZ Leipzig. And so Mara reached out to us and she had this idea of this panel discussion. She asked, do you think that we could do that? So as you can see, we're here now today. And I would like to thank Mara, our moderator for today's session. So
hello to everyone online and also here, all the familiar and new faces from my side. I think as a first step, it would be very, very nice if you could all introduce yourselves shortly and say in a brief sentence how you came to open data sharing as a topic. And maybe we start with Ronny.
Yeah, hello and welcome everybody. I'm Ronny and I'm working, as Riccardo already mentioned, I'm also working in the RDM team here at UFZ. Yeah, the first contact I got with open data and, or let's put it a bit more broader, open science was back in 2018 when I changed, formerly I was working in a scientific project in a domain where nobody cared about sharing data and stuff or open science, that was never mentioned. And then I changed to working in a university library. Mm-hmm. And there it was a big topic, everybody was talking about that. And I felt like, yeah, that's how it should be in science. And I never got loose on that.
What did you do in the university library?
I was doing a kind of an internship for 2 years.
Very nice. And let's move on.
Okay, yeah, so my name is Michaela. I'm a third-year PhD student in a lab that's doing clinical AI. So we're doing all kinds of AI for whatever medical purposes. And today we want to talk more about the imaging part of the AI. So I don't actually know how did I come in contact with open data, probably in my master's studies. I mean, we had lectures also by Robert Hase, and people were talking about fair data principles and how that would help in science. But as a student, I did not really understand what it actually implies. So now that I'm a PhD student and I'm actually confronted with not being able to access data, it's becoming more a thing. So you then get more an advocate for open data.
I think that's a very typical thing to experience. For me, it was very similar.
Yeah, so my name is Frauke Beyer. I'm a postdoc at the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences. So I'm a physicist by training, but yeah, I kind of slide imaging, and also there's also strong focus on psychology at the MPI. And I think it was also around 2018, 2019 that I got in contact with the open science movement, let's say, and this was driven largely by also the reproducibility crisis that I think is maybe not so much a topic in bioimaging itself, but in psychology it is large. So the issue that studies don't get replicated, that's scary figures about this. And we do this kind of cognitive neuroimaging, and it was also a topic in that. So I think this is how I got to open science, and then data sharing is part of it, I would say.
Yeah. I think also in bioimaging, reproducibility is really a thing. And when it then comes to analysis and AI, even more.
Yeah.
Riccardo, what about you?
Yeah, I think starting from the master to the PhD, you're always touching a little bit this part of open science, open data, and so on. And I remember the first course that I did about this was during the PhD, but as you say, I didn't really get it, I think at a certain point. And now I think the first real experience about RDM was really during my postdoc. Before there was this big project, precision talks, and we really have to find a way to organize the data in a proper way in order to find them and reuse it and so on. And this was really the moment that you understand how it's important to have this kind of approach if you want to recreate something that is reusable by the people. And this was like the first jump that then bring me to an FDF by image. And this is really where basically became my work at the moment. And then, this world completely open.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we partly already touched on it, but do you think your feelings or thoughts about the topic did change, or in what way did they change from then to now?
From the past until now.
Yeah.
I think it's more feel somehow. So like people at the moment are talking way more about it. That is good. Makes sense. Also because with more of social media on science, so social media and everything, this is more an argument that is taken and share with the people. And also with AI now, that is like in the last 2 years or 3 years, this repository came out, and everything that is connected start to talk more. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very cool. I think my next question would be more of an example. Like, can you think of a situation in research in like your life where the sharing of data or also the lack of data did influence your research?
I mean, in the daily life of people who do research with AI, we're searching for data, obviously. So I guess everyone here probably heard that the more data you have and the more data you train the AI on, the better it is. So of course, we're searching for diverse data sets, especially. So what we have in the lab is that we usually go from public available data. We combine it with data that is not so much publicly available because we have collaborations. And since we're also in the medical domain, we also hit boundaries with open science because we cannot share any patient information just openly. So I think there kind of the open science mixes a bit, or open data mixes a bit with
the ethical concerns.
Yeah, the ethical concerns.
Yeah. Very true point. And are there also other bottlenecks that you face when working with data sets in AI? Is it only like data set related, or?
I mean, there are a lot of boundaries that you hit with data, usually if you work on a lot of data. So you have data biases, for example, that you cannot apply an AI that is trained on one type of cohort on another type of patient cohort, and it's not having the same accuracy. For example, in medicine, we also have different workflows in the clinic actually that influence how good the data at the end is that we get from them. Also with different scanners, different microscopes, everything. And at the end, also heterogeneous data that you also need to filter down to make it presentable or usable is also a big challenge, because the modeling part is usually not taking the most of our time. It's the data filtering and cleaning and making it nice.
Yeah, then you already have half of the work done. Very cool. And are there any like infrastructures or help that you wished existed to make this whole process easier for you?
I mean, the thing is that I know that there are probably pipelines that exist, but when you start working on a project, for example, you're also not aware of all of the different possibilities that you have. So usually people start to produce their own pipeline, and then at the end they see, actually we would have had this and this available from, for example, the NFDI for image or whatever, that would have been easier to standardize our data in different formats, for example. So
communication.
Yeah, the communication, actually aware of what exists sometimes is a bit lacking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something we are actively working on. Very good.
Maybe I can give another example where I think, I don't know, you all know probably that section in papers where it says data availability, that data will be available from the authors upon request. And this is always, I mean, we also sometimes do like this meta-analysis or reviews when you kind of then go to people and ask them really about the data that they don't put in the paper. So this is really more, not really about imaging analysis, but about images, but really about like some average in some group or something like this. And usually people don't come back to you, or this is really, I think, really a topic that really hinders this progress also, to combine the knowledge that is kind of gathered in different places when people just don't. Yeah, just I think the requirements become higher from journals. So journals, they they push open science and open data to some extent, but then really the quality and really the availability of data then still, I think, hasn't improved like a lot, because it's still very, I would say, not very much. So people pretend somehow to do it, but then they don't really do it.
And how many times are you approached? Like,
it happens,
really
and it
request?
always kind of annoys me, because then I have to dig into my old stuff again. But it's also a very good exercise, because of course you should kind of, I reply, but it's sometimes a bit slow. It happens.
Understandable.
Yeah.
And if I can add to that,
Yeah.
it's not just the problem of data are available, because you can put your data available, but people can just in a completely ununderstandable way.
Yeah.
You know, you can say,
right,
you share there, whatever, but then you get it and you cannot really get it.
Yeah.
So should come also this step to give some kind of well-established information to it. No? This is also
Definitely,
the case.
Metadata to be also usable.
Yeah.
I wonder if here your story fits in at that point.
My slide, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, maybe I can. Do you want to?
Yes. I'm here for this.
Because basically each panelist brought a little story from his or her career, where open data sharing was working well or challenging, or something they had in mind they wanted to share with us today. And I think Frauke has something very good for now.
We're all working with, or not all, but we're working with medical people, with medical data, at least the two of us. And this concern that sharing medical information, and also like the type of imaging that I do is this neuroimaging. So you can acquire an image of the brain in 3D. And this also doesn't really fulfill the requirement to be anonymized. In principle, showing that just from the activity in your brain, ongoing activity, you can kind of identify a certain person. So there's this, you can only call it pseudonymized, because it's not really, you cannot really anonymize it, because if you put an infinite amount of resources into identifying a person, from that you could. So that's an issue, and that's why sharing this brain data publicly is a little bit tricky, and people have to consent in it in study forms. And then I wanted to show an example of a person who asked something funny on the internet.
She's coming.
Yes, good.
Because everything's on Zenodo.
Yeah.
True. I don't have that another link.
But in the meantime, maybe another question. Did some of you already try to actually reproduce
That's another number.
certain study based on open data? And because like this is why we do that, sharing our data and sharing our processes and our software and so on. But it's only the first step to actually reproduce what people have done in their scientific work. And did some of you already tried that once? Because I'm not from, I never done that, but I'm asking myself whether it's actually quite a demanding task to understand others' data and like the process of that person.
So I could give an example. I mean, in AI, we have, since there is a very big boom at the moment, a lot of models coming out, and then you also, that's how science works. You want to use some tool and then maybe improve it and then make it better for the next person. So I think we had a lot of stories in our lab where we tried to replicate any model of any group, and then it's either a conflict of where's the data, first of all, then is the code actually accessible online? Can I download it? Can I weights, how we call it? So not just that the code is online, but that the trained model that people trained already is also available, that you can reuse it, for example, and this is usually a problem. So it takes weeks to months to replicate something, and then also to benchmark all of the available models. It's also a very big topic at the moment in the field, that you have something to compare the models and not just cherry-picked examples of the original publications. I mean, that's how science works at the end, but yeah, benchmarking and reproducing in AI is a big thing.
So two ways that we also go forward with this is, on the one side, to provide synthetic data, so to have kind of a data set that is similar to what you have with actual participants, but that you don't, it's kind of like an imputation of the real connections in your data, so that you can use the code that is published with the paper, that so you can run your code on that synthetic data and get kind of the same associations and similar structures, but it's not actual participants. So this is nice to kind of show, okay, my code is working and this is how I did it and this is how my data looked like roughly, but this is really unproblematic and you can just do it without any concern. And then we also share a lot of results, not of individual participants, but like this is, for example, the summary of, you see a brain slice and then you just see a summary of all the participants. And this can still be useful for some people to reproduce or to compare their results, but it's not that you can identify an individual. So these are kind of the solutions that we use sometimes. Yeah.
Very cool. And is it like a already widely used technique, or is it more in your lab?
Like this, this neural vault, I think has become quite big, because you can also then people upload their studies that is, for example, related to, let's say, reward processing, which is one process of the brain, and then you can kind of meta-analyze all studies that did something related to reward, either, what the reward they were giving or showing. So then you can also do that, and I think it's quite, I would say, accepted in the field and quite well known.
Nice, very cool. I think next question would be what like technical or logistical considerations you think we need when we talk about open data sharing? Like one example would be licensing, I thought. Not sure if you want to say something about licensing or metadata or.
Yeah, for licensing, I'm always a little bit, because sometimes also make some mistake. Licensing is a really hard topic, this one, I would say, because also I think this is actually your thing. We just had
also an open question. So
we had the discussion with Robert in the break that it's a difficult topic, and it's like something that researchers are like, no matter from what domain they come, actually, that they struggle with. And we had, for example, the issue that, like our big institutions, we have data repositories, and usually the researchers, they would attach a license on the data. And we just realized that a lot of our institutions, they do not attach a license to the metadata, for instance. So we as institutions, we didn't do our job at this point, because like we always pray, hey, please put the license on your software, otherwise nobody can actually use your code or like legally use. And then we realized, but we didn't do that as well. So put a license on the metadata. So it's complicated.
But are you publishing the metadata together with the data, or always separately?
It depends on what kind of system you have. If you have a catalog, a catalog is only meant for carry metadata. But if you have a repository, you would publish the data and the metadata, but not like you would publish it together. But still, the metadata would have ideally another fixed license than the data itself, let's say.
And when you upload data, is there a storage constraint? Like, is this a thing?
Of course. I mean, there's like data sets, they are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the instruments and everything getting more precise. Data sets are the single data is getting bigger, and storage should do that as well. And we are running into like physical boundaries in a way, so that we have to update and we have to get new storage to be able to enable our scientists to actually store their data. So it's like it's always like keeping track of the actual development.
Yeah. But to solve this like storage problem is then probably more of an institutional question, right?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't put that on the shoulders of the scientists. That's
Yeah, makes sense. And we talked already about data management plans. I always heard like, yeah, data management plans are important, but how are you actually like writing the data management plan in a way know it also throughout the project and know when to revisit this plan?
So first of all, I think there are a lot of tools that are available also for build up data management plan that are kind of reproducible in a standard form. This is one of the first things that should be followed. So follow the standard form that you can easily fill, and then you have like different people that have it, but they have the similar structure. To like put deadline for checking and maybe revisit the data management plan, this should be done according to the production. So you see, in my opinion, so when you see like they are setting at the start of the experiment or of the project actually point that you see that you can revisit the data management plan because something can happen, then you establish and you do it according to the project itself. Okay. But this I think by experience is really important. So to have like appointment with the scientist that you decide to look, hey, is everything going fine? Should we revisit something? And
yeah, very cool. Yeah, I like checked the watch and we already like have half an hour in. So I think maybe I ask one more question now to the panelists. Sorry, and then we can open the discussion and maybe we still have the opportunity to show the other slides later in this open part. But the last question I would have for you is like, what would be your key message to the people that you want to be remembered basically about today's discussion and open data sharing in general?
I think one important thing when we talk about open science, I mean, open science is great and open data is great, but we also need to set incentives for researchers actually, because we know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of time, which is usually not paid. So the administrative side from journals, from any kind of corporation, to also make it feasible to do open research and open data management.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, that it becomes a state of the art and a standard and not an exception.
Yeah, I have the same message to say that open science as just science done right. So that's shouldn't be like something special. It should be the standard and not something aside.
I agree.
Okay. I think then we close this discussion among us here and open it now to everyone. And I think I'm going maybe there so I can see the questions and do not need to twist. Okay. Do you think we will get to the point where public imaging data or knowledge bases become as common in imaging as they are in genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics?
I mean, should be. should be handy, but there are other kind of technical problems behind, no? Because like the sharing of genomic, transcriptomic, proteomic data, I'm not an expert into this. I don't know which kind of data you have in that kind of field. Obviously, I think there are other kind of challenging respect to imaging data, but still with project like, I don't know, NFI urban image and so on, that you are actually have a consortium that is working on it, on focusing this thing, you should arrive to that point, I think. Yeah, so this should be the goal.
I'm actually a bit surprised by the question, because usually for us, the genomic patient information is the hard stuff to acquire and not the images usually, but I can also understand it. Maybe if it's not in a patient-related context, it's easier to share because it's maybe less.
Yeah, I would also say that maybe this person like refers to this kind of group, like the sharing of some GWAS results, so that you can kind of so that the idea of sharing the data will make it more powerful. I think this is something that is in the genetics field very, very common, that you have like large consortia, then they pool the data and then they get like really studies with 1 million or some million participants or so. And I think in the imaging, like in our, at least my field of imaging, this is not so much. I think it has started, so that there are larger data sets, but it's not really. Still, I have the feeling that people kind of, they put so much effort in acquiring this expensive data somehow, that then they feel like, why should I share it now openly with everyone, like people that don't that, yeah, it's just so, they don't really see the rewarding aspect, and that they all something back then in the end, but it's more like, we have paid for this, we are holding our hands on this, yeah, so this also.
Yeah, it's hard if it's the unique selling point of a lab or an institution to have a very nicely curated data set. Why should you openly share? So I also understand this.
Okay, next question. If I want to attempt to recreate a study analysis from public data to get used to formats, analysis pipelines, etc., do you have any examples, a good place to start? So I want to recreate some study from public data, and then.
So if we talk about bioimaging, I would say that, for example, there is this repository, EDR, that is a really good point where to start, because normally these are high, well annotated data with good metadata format, and normally it points you out also to a publication where there is the pipeline that will everything, and this is a nice point to, I don't know, I'm looking, whoever asked this question also like, this is a good point where to start. So it's really often that you can find all the information that are necessary to recreate the pipeline. I would say, yeah.
Or maybe in general, I would look. In Germany, there's the German Reproducibility Network, I think it's called, and I think that's a good point to start. Like, there are a lot of people interested in the topic, and they would help you, I'm pretty sure.
My boss is not a big fan of sharing data openly. How can I convince him? Probably.
Yeah, we were talking about incentives.
Yeah.
It's a question of culture. That's what young scientists always report, that they would like to do like open science practices, but in the end of the day, the supervisor or the department head or whoever controls it says no, or says no to some aspects. And I don't know, I don't have the gold standard for that, but I know that in Helmholtz, at least nowadays, in the Helmholtz Association, it's how to say, it's promoted that when you share and when you publish data and when you publish the software, that it gets evaluated in the end of the year's scientific reports, and that's already one star to promote open practices. But I don't know how it is in how is it in Max Planck, for instance?
I think more and more this kind of thing, if you publish an open data set and it gets a DOI or so, I think that it will be somehow, you can somehow report on it that you did. But it's also not super common, I would say. So still they are like, well, where's the Nature publication? And not like, where's the, so I think in Max Planck is even probably worse than in Helmholtz. So, but I wanted to say that I would also try to argument more in a way that also the same argument as for open code or for anything, that this helps also it also helps you when doing the science, and when like it will help your future self, that in like it's me in 2 years that is asked about something about the data, and I'm like, I don't know, this data is like really bad organized, and like if you share it and you really put some thought into what's the necessary metadata, how do I organize it, and does the code really work when I run on this data when it's organized like this? So I think this really is also an argument for your supervisor to say, I will if it will produce a more, I mean, all supervisors know these projects that are kind of lying around and nobody knows who did this and what is this actually. And I think this can really help to say, okay, we will structure this in a way that will help myself in the future, but also my colleagues. So my colleagues can use the code again. Another person can probably use data. So I think it's also an argument not to think about it only to that it's useful for the public, but also that this whole process will make your science better. I think also supervisors, they should want this and hopefully do so.
Maybe my example fits, I think.
I'm sorry. Yes, this one?
No, the next one. No,
No?
this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think this here is also a good example because it's a data set from my boss from 2018, and he shared like a manually created data set of some pathology image patches that you can see in the bottom here. And it's actually quite a lot, like 100,000 images of different types. So you have, I don't know, adipose tissue, whatever you want. And you can actually see that a lot of people recognized it and a lot of people also downloaded it. So I know that science is about recognition and having a high H index, for example. So you can definitely argue that you will get some recognition for your work also in this way.
You know what I would really like to see, but I still didn't have the possibility that I didn't stumble into it. It's like to have like two different data sets that are coming from two different studies, but they are so well annotated that they can be reused together. So this would be really cool, and for example, in bioimaging, but like to have this thing that you have one study with genomic data, one with imaging, and they all are so well good that you can use it to solve the same question. This would be super cool. But I think it's possible, but I still didn't see a publication or something about it. That is strange, no? But yeah.
As somebody new to HCS data analysis, can you recommend public databases to find high quality HCS imaging data?
It's IDR or the Bioimaging Archive. So these are two repositories that are really good for image sharing. Yeah. Maybe I don't know if there are many, obviously, but this I would the one.
Robert?
There's a follow-up question to Michaela, because you just showed that your gross published data is low. I think I was never in a position where I had a boss like this. And that's why I really would like to know how does working with a boss who share data himself and is obviously interested in sharing data openly, how does this work in your group? I guess you do not share the data immediately at the beginning of the project, but rather later. How do you make these decisions? How are these discussions? How's the process?
So how do I approach this? So, I mean, it's obviously very nice that he already is very much an advocate. This is also encouraging us to share everything from data to our code openly. The caveat that is coming in here is that we usually have also a lot of data from collaborations that don't want to share. So since science is a collaborative process, especially in a interdisciplinary field, it's not just the one party who says, yeah, we want to share it, but also the other people who then usually established the data and created it. So I think it's usually a discussion process going on. So, but if the people at the end don't want to share, then we cannot just overhaul them and just share it. But yeah, but in general, in the lab, it's very much encouraged for everyone to be open about it and to share as much as you can.
In general, we are now like up with the time for our like general discussion, and now we have some more time for informal networking. So you're very welcome to stay here and just approach the panelists, us in general. Yeah. Any questions? And I want to use the time to do a little thank you round again. So first of all, to the YMIA for doing this whole event together with me. Special thanks to Elena. Elena needs the biggest applause for Then I also want to thank all the panelists for coming here, and Michi from Dresden, actually, and for all your great ideas and the input you gave. And also it felt very secure to have you next to me discussing, so it was very nice. Also thanks to Connie and Gunnar, who could not join today, but still brought in a lot of interesting ideas and input for this discussion. And thank you to all the institutions behind us. I think we've mentioned them all briefly, and you can also find all the institutions on the flyer. I want to thank Robert for actually encouraging me to go to the YMIA, because this would not have happened without you. And I hope I did not. I want to thank Riccardo, because Riccardo did not only, he was not only a panelist, but also had a lot of extra work with this. Thank you all for coming, and online or in person, to make this event possible. I hope we still have a nice time. Ellen?
I also want to give a big shout out to our online team, Jeff, Evenepoel, and setting this up technically, so you at home can enjoy your discussion on the couch.
Yeah, thank you, Mara, for the moderation.
Thank you, Mara.
So then we close it here.
Session closed.